Yes.
Yes, I can see your screen. We're good to go. I'm just going to record this session.
Thank you so much. So first I want to start off with why this topic. So this is something that's very near and dear to me. I've been really fortunate to be at edX for a long time now and have seen us go through a few iterations. And when we started our enterprise business, so sort of like our B2B side of the house, it was kind of an idea, right? Like half-baked idea with a little bit of product, a headstrong salesperson, and me. And we were trying to figure out how to make sure that we got the right thing to the customer. I'm seeing some smiles, so I know that there are some people who have been in some similar situations. And we started out with an MVP to prove the concept, and we started going out, but the further we got and the fact that the market was responding well, we found that we were really struggling to deliver the experience we wanted to deliver. And so in terms of thinking about your relationship with product and signs that there's room for improvement, three things that really stood out to me in those early days were that I didn't feel like confident that we had a great champion. Requests that we had seemed to be going nowhere, and then releases were coming out of nowhere. And so the way to think about it is we had started with this MVP, we were putting stuff in front of clients, and I was having to spend so much time hiring people and training people and using my staff to try to make up for issues in our product. We had wonderful, smart people. We were all working towards the same goal, but somehow despite that, we were putting a product in front of customers that was not good enough. The core functions of what we were trying to do weren't reliable. And my team, instead of spending time driving utilization and expansion and all of those wonderful things that success can do, were boiled down into trying to get the product to do what we said it would do. And I liken the early days really to, we were tinting windows even though the car didn't have an engine. And we couldn't do the thing that we had set out to do, and we couldn't deliver on what we had planned on because we were operating on a different set of priorities as part of it. And when we were submitting our requests, it didn't necessarily align with the direction that leadership was passing down to the folks who were trying to do it. So we were bringing in a new hire, and I saw that as an opportunity to start to address these issues. And we started by kind of bringing in all the proof that we had, right? We'd had a couple of years now of collecting information and presenting that, telling our customer stories, explaining what the reality of our experiences were like. And another thing was also describing how we had sort of bent the product to meet customer needs that were still unmet. So there were a few things that were happening that were outside of the purview of product. They didn't have that direct connection to the customer. And so we really established our reputation as the customer expert and the product expert. And to the point where we were even, telling our product and engineering teams ways that we could exploit bugs. It's not a bug, it's a feature. There were a few things in there that they didn't know worked a certain way or didn't work a certain way, but my team had figured out how to use them to meet customer needs. And so all said, we'd gotten to a point of a little bit of chaos. And by restarting and reestablishing this relationship, we were able to realign and make sure we're working towards the goals of the customer. And so in terms of how we started to do this, one was making sure that we were talking the same language. So DREAD, we were really big on acronyms at this time. And so this was the format that we employed for how we submitted our bug and feature request tickets. So, description of what was happening, what to do to make it happen again, what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, and then pictures, videos, proof, etc. And this really helped to align us on, one, how product was thinking and approaching things, but also to align them to what we were doing to get to some outcomes. And so this really tidied up the way we were communicating between teams. The second thing was having someone attend a Scrum meeting. So you should know how your product team is working. When do their sprints start? If you don't know that, find that out tomorrow. You can go in and ask the product team when their sprint begins. And the reason this is important is because when something pops up and you need to be strategic, and when you push for it, doing it before the sprint starts is always a lot easier. Interrupting the sprint has to be like a very sort of hell or high water situation. But if it's something that is important, but and needs to happen quick, but can maybe happen next week, doing it before the sprint starts is going to have a huge difference for your team and how they respond to that. Also, having someone in Scrum means that you get to impact the prioritization and the discussion there. So that team can make assumptions about how a customer is using the product and what's happening, but having someone there who can really explain what has happened and what is happening and why something is a bigger deal than the product team may realize, had a really big impact for us and made sure we had fewer of those blind turns, right? Like occasionally we'd have something released and we would say, that's nice, but no one needs this. No one has asked for this. No one is looking for this. Getting in the Scrum meetings meant that we were able to push the things that maybe to that team did not seem like a priority, but was something that we were suffering a lot within the current state. Escalations. So not only who, but also like what is the agreed on path, right? Like what is a cat 1? What is a cat 2? What does that mean in regards to interrupting a sprint? So, and that's like a flat out decision tree. That's something that you can put together with your product team. This should be a collaborative effort. There are plenty of templates online. You don't have to start from scratch. You can find one that seems to align with what works for your organization. Say, hey, can we agree that this is how we're going to do this? This is what this means. And that way you have that transparency on both sides. And then the last one is releases. So when things come out, not only what's coming out, but how do we prepare for that? What does that mean? What is the checklist of things that we go down? And for those of you who are saying, that feels like a product thing, right? Like product should control their release, sure. And depending on the maturity of your organization, they may be doing that. They may have the space to do that. That may be something they're working towards. But if they're not doing that today and the release isn't meeting your needs, and that could be not only in like the actual thing that's being released, but in regards to the communications around it. Is there new sales collateral? Is there new support collateral? Do you know that it's happening? Are you prepared to talk to customers about it? Are you fully trained on how to use it? All of these things impact the success of this thing that the team has been toiling on, right? So something they should be bought into, they should understand the importance of. And if they're not doing it themselves, this is a great opportunity to elevate the team, make sure that these things are happening in a way that is useful to you, setting you up for success and setting your customers up for success. I was having a conversation with the CEO of a B2B telehealth company. They're doing great, they're growing a bunch, but they were having some success support issues. And one of the things that came to light was their largest customer had no awareness of like any of their new features. So they'd signed them early, they'd grown them, the customer was fine, they were happy enough, but they were completely in the dark about all these new things that had come out. So whose responsibility, right? It's a little bit of hot potato. Should product have given success the materials in order to be able to convey this to the customer? Should success have taken the reins and presented this? And regardless of kind of placing blame, it's not a unique situation. I'm sure there are customers in your organization who are not aware of some of the great things that you're doing. And this is a way to say, we know what that checklist should be. And we know that we have the things that we need in order to make sure our customers are aware of what we're doing and how we're enhancing the product and how we're trying to be a leader in the space. So in addition to helping customers out, right, like giving them a better experience, I also think that the stronger this relationship is and the better it is, the better support and success do in the grand scheme of things, right? Like from visibility, if you are seen as that leader, if the entire organization understands what you bring to the table, you don't have to chase down product to say, hey, can I come to this meeting, right? Can I sit at this table? They will be chasing you down for your expertise. If that's not happening today, there's room for improvement. They should be pursuing you for your input. The other thing is team growth. So in terms of like who should go to that Scrum meeting, there's a person on your team who has like the right aptitude for that, has the right interest. And this is an excellent way to get a person on the inside. So not only do they get to be there during prioritization, but if they have that interest and they grow into a product role, then they also get to be the person that manages the things that come out. And they do so with a perspective that a regular product manager is not going to have. I've been lucky enough to have 2 folks grow into product. And one, they were incredibly capable. It gave them good growth opportunities within the organization, let us retain awesome talent. But also now when they're solving a problem, they're solving it in a way that is more familiar with the pain that we deal with on a day-to-day basis versus sort of this removed perspective. Speed, things are just going to go faster, right? If you're aligned on what you're doing and you understand why you're doing those things, then you're just wasting less time doing the wrong things. And then community. So one, yes, internally, it builds camaraderie. We have a great relationship. We're friends. We go out for drinks, when we're in the same city, when we're lucky enough to have that happen. But the external community, the customer community. So I know that's something that's always on maybe a little lower on the success to-do list, is to establish that community of beta testers and people that you rely on to give feedback on new products and sort of your board of decision makers, if you want. But this really helps to establish that, because now when you know what's coming, you can connect customers to product. Those customers feel engaged. They feel invested in the success of the company and their investment in what you're all trying to accomplish together. So we've seen a really great outcome from connecting these teams. Again, product is better, customer is happier, and we know we have sort of a test run, right? Like, we know what is confusing to the customer when something new comes out and how we can better position it so that when we bring it out to the rest of the group, the communications are clear, they're buttoned up, and we have much better success there. So that's kind of my time. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right.
Awesome job there, Dianna. Appreciate you and the insights that you gave. I mean, thank you for sharing a lot of the challenges that you've had. I was watching the chat, and there's a lot of comment coming in. So thank you, everyone. Go ahead. If you have specific questions, there are a few already here, but if you have specific questions, post those in the chat. And I'd love to open up this Q&A. Before we do that, let's go ahead and just give Dianna some customer support love, some happy finger love, some nice job. Get those fingers up. Yes. Thank you so much, Dianna. So a couple things that a lot of people are chatting about here while we're waiting for that chat to warm up. So there's some questions around prioritization. And I loved Rebecca's comment. We have had the issue where everything is in escalation to our customers, which diminishes CS's voice trying to influence product changes. So do you have like a framework, or how do you go about prioritizing those? I feel that because everything's on fire, but you can't be the one that's like, everything's on fire all the time. So you have to be able to prioritize that. How do you go about doing that?
So when I see Ben's notes, this is, these are definitely important things. Obviously, account size, like I wish that didn't always matter, but we know that it does, right? So that's something that impacts it. What we also started doing was occasionally we get requests that were good, right, but weren't the top thing that we wanted to fight for. And so we started collecting those in a space where it was like, these things aren't on fire, but like, here's who's asking for it. And then when we'd sort of hit a tipping point, we would then kind of collect that and say, hey, we have enough interest, right? And whether that was based on cumulative account size, brand, strategic importance, whatever that was, we would then be able to go in and say, this is why we need to do it now, or this is why we need to have this available in 6 months, depending on sort of what your roadmap looks like and the timing there. But I think bringing in your justification, right? Because anything that the product team has to do to break from their roadmap, they have to justify. And it's much easier to justify it if you can connect it to revenue, if you can connect it to the customers that you're trying to leverage, and obviously the impact. That impact also can be, process improvement. I think sometimes when we think about automation and the things that we want to request, we think about the things that we're doing, right? Like getting an invoice is a pain in the neck. Product, like let's help us link to our link to Salesforce so that we can do invoices in a different way. I also want you to think about what aren't you doing today because of these manual invoices, right? Like maybe someone else can fix the invoice issue. Is there something that your customers aren't getting today because it's just something that's so far off and not something that you're able to manually deliver on? Those are also opportunities. If you know that there's a thing that you want to do. Example for us has been, I work TU and edX. We provide educational technology. So we have a lot of different courses, new content comes out. Communicating content to new customers and getting that feedback is tricky. And doing that at scale is tricky. So working with our product team, we were able to launch an automated email system that an email cadence that is leveraging their reporting, like their learner progress data, and connecting it to content releases so that we're putting the right content in front of them based on what they're taking. to be able to do that at scale, I would need 100 people, like it's just wasn't even something that I could even dream about doing manually. But by working with product, it was a new thing that we were able to do that we knew was important, we knew would resonate, and has been great for getting folks engaged in like driving utilization.
Excellent, excellent. And the discussion over here in the chat is highlighting a lot of those things that you're talking about and diving deep into those. So folks, thanks for sharing your wisdom. That is why we are here, is to be able to come together and talk about the subject. So the last thing in closing, the last question I wanted to hit on is, let's talk product release. Now, there are some of us out here that are part of and know about the product release hours before. Some of us that know about product releases hours after, and some of us that know about product releases months before. So for those of us that would like to be involved in product releases much sooner than they're currently involved in, give us a few pointers on how to move upstream and building that relationship so that our teams can prep and be better prepared for that wave of bugs that's going to come out. And you're muted, by the way, Dianna.
Oh, I thought you were asking the whole group.
Oh, no. I'm wondering what you did to build that relationship.
Yeah. So for us, it was definitely understanding what was coming, and kind of the other things improve the release process, right? Like when you're asked to the table early, you get to have influence on the decisions that are made, the product that is eventually being developed and released. So one, you're aware of it from very early on, you're at the drawing board. But two, as you get closer, you're able to identify what your needs are. So for us, it was, do we need any marketing collateral to put in front of the customer? What do we need from a help center perspective, either in videos or materials? And then additionally, who are the customers that we want to push this to first? There's always a bit of beta testing that we want to do, right? So there's that level. And then after that, who's big enough that they want to be kind of the first ones to try out the cool new things, but we don't want to necessarily put it in front of them before we've had a chance to make sure that it works, as well as we can. And so identifying who those groups are, working with our customer success managers so that they're able to present those things so that when it's time, we're ready to go. And we're never the ones holding up the release, as soon as it's out there, we're ready to make sure that our customers can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's key. You don't want to hold them up, and that's how you build the relationship. A lot of great comments in here. Tal, I love what you said. Product releases, sometimes we find out when the customer asks what this button does. By raise of hands, how many of you have been in that situation before? I think we can all empathize with each other. Holy crap, that's a holy crap moment that happens. So great pointers, Dianna. Obviously, this topic is extraordinarily hot, and everyone in the chat, thank you for your contributions. So let's give some thumbs up to Dianna and bringing up this topic. She's the one that came to us and said, hey, I think this would be cool to talk about. If you're out there thinking, you know what, I think we should chat about this next time, reach out to Alan and let's get you up here for a lightning talk speak session. With that, Dianna, one of the things we're going to do is we're now going to get into breakout rooms, and we're going to explore. I'm going to have everyone kind of share a win that they've had recently with product, or just a win that they've had in general. And here's the thing, folks, we all need to recognize that everyone here is at different parts of the journey. Some of you, like Tal, he's saying, hey, we don't have a relationship with product. And some of you are like, like Dianna, we have a great relationship with product. Just recognize we're all along this journey. This is a community of peers coming together to share best practices. So I want it to be a safe place where you can open up and you can say, yo, what is product? No one's doing that, but you could if you wanted to, right? So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to get into breakout rooms next. And I want you to share a win that you've had with product recently. What happened? Based off of everything Dianna was talking about. And then after we do those short discussions, we're going to spend the remaining amount of our time really trying to come up with what can CS leadership do to consistently build better relationships with product. So is there anything, Dianna, that you want to frame up for that as we get ready to go into breakout rooms?
Nothing to add. I think that what you mentioned is important, like understanding that everyone's coming from different perspectives, and that you can drive more of this than you think. If you're waiting for them to do it, You may get lucky and get the right leader who will do it, but if not, there are things that you can start doing today and tomorrow, even if you're maybe under resourced.
Awesome. What a great
Yeah.
perspective. Thank you for that. All right. So here we go.